Have you ever said yes when you really wanted to say no? Like your stomach tightened, your chest felt heavy, and every part of your body screamed, "Don't do it." And yet the word yes still came out of your mouth? Maybe it was a favor you didn't have time for, a conversation you didn't want to have, or a person you kept letting back into your life, even though you knew better. Whatever it was, you walked away feeling frustrated, resentful, and honestly a little confused. Why is it so hard to just say what you mean, protect your space, and feel good about it? We all talk about boundaries like they're simple fences you build around your life to keep things healthy and organized. But if they're so simple, why do so many of us feel anxious, guilty, or even ashamed when we try to put them in place? Why does a boundary often feel like a breakup, a betrayal, or a burden? You know you should have boundaries, and maybe you even try, but something always gets in the way. So, what's the real reason you struggle with boundaries? Let's talk about it. And not in the Instagram self help post kind of way. Let's go deeper, because this runs deeper than you think. Here's the uncomfortable truth: struggling with boundaries is rarely just about not knowing what to say or being too nice. It's about how you see yourself in relation to other people. Somewhere along the way, whether it was childhood, early relationships, culture, trauma, or some combination of it all, you picked up the belief that your worth is tied to your ability to be available, likable, agreeable, or useful to others. That saying no might mean rejection. That asking for space might mean abandonment. That prioritizing yourself might mean being selfish. So it's not that you don't know what your boundaries are. You probably know exactly what's crossing the line. It's that enforcing them feels like a threat to your identity. If your self-worth has been wired to come from people-pleasing, keeping the peace, or avoiding conflict, then boundaries feel unsafe. Not just emotionally uncomfortable, but existentially threatening. Like, if I say no, will they still like me? Still need me? Still choose me? And here's the kicker. Most of this is happening on a subconscious level. You're not walking around saying, "Hey, I'm going to abandon myself today to earn love." But that's exactly what's happening when you overextend, agree to things that drain you, or allow behavior that hurts you again and again. It's your nervous system doing what it thinks it has to do to survive emotionally. It gets even trickier because we've been conditioned to praise the very behaviors that destroy our boundaries. Ever heard someone say, "She's always there for everyone," or "He never says no to anyone"? Sounds noble, right? But what cost? Burnout, resentment, disconnection, and a slow erosion of your sense of self. People don't burn out because they're doing too much. They burn out because they're doing too much for others and not enough for themselves, and they don't know how to stop. So the real reason you struggle with boundaries is because setting one feels like you're risking love, connection, or approval. It's not just a communication skill. It's a self-worth issue. It's a fear of rejection issue. It's a nervous system is triggered issue. And until you address the underlying belief that you're only lovable when you are useful, boundaries will always feel like a battle. Another huge factor? Guilt. Let's talk about that for a second. Guilt is one of the most powerful emotional forces keeping you from enforcing your boundaries. You might feel like a bad friend, a bad daughter, a bad employee, a bad partner, just because you said, "I can't today." But guilt isn't always a sign you've done something wrong. Sometimes, guilt is just your programming reacting to change. If you were raised in a household where love was conditional, or where saying no led to punishment or coldness, then of course guilt shows up when you try to protect yourself. It's your inner child panicking that they'll lose love. And don't forget, some people benefit from your lack of boundaries. When you start setting them, they won't always react well. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because they were used to the version of you who gave without asking for much in return. They might say you've changed. They might call you selfish or dramatic or distant. But that's just discomfort talking. And you're not responsible for how other people respond to you taking care of yourself. Let me say that again. You're not responsible for other people's feelings about your boundaries. Healing your relationship with boundaries requires healing your relationship with yourself. It means learning that you are allowed to take up space, that your needs matter even if they inconvenience someone, that your time, Energy and peace are not resources to be endlessly mined by everyone around you. This work isn't easy. It requires unlearning. It requires discomfort. It requires you to sit with the awkward silence after saying no, or the anxiety of disappointing someone, or the fear of being misunderstood. But every time you do, you reclaim a little piece of yourself. You teach your body that it's safe to choose you. You start to feel less resentful and more aligned, less exhausted and more empowered. Boundaries are not walls, they're doors. They're the way you teach people how to love you, respect you, and keep you in their lives. And most importantly, they're how you show up for yourself. The more you honor your boundaries, the more you become someone who is deeply rooted, clear, and whole. And trust me, that person is magnetic. So what do you do with all this? Start small. Don't expect to become a boundary master overnight. Just notice where you feel resentment. It's usually a sign that a boundary is being ignored. Pay attention to when you say yes and immediately regret it. Catch yourself in the moments where guilt is trying to manipulate you into self-abandonment. Awareness is the first step. Then practice. A boundary doesn't always have to be a dramatic confrontation. It could be a pause before you answer. Let me get back to you. Not today, but maybe next week. It could be deleting a text, unfollowing that account, turning off your phone. It could be choosing silence over explaining. It could be leaving the party early because your body said, "I'm done." Every small act of self-respect adds up. Also, learn to hold your boundaries with love. You don't have to be cold or distant. You can be kind and clear. You can say no with softness. You can disagree without disconnecting. The goal isn't to push people away. It's to build relationships where you don't have to sacrifice yourself to be included. And finally, celebrate the moments you choose yourself. Even if it was messy, even if you felt guilty, even if it was hard. Because every time you do, you're rewriting a story that probably began long before you even realized it was running your life. A story that said you had to earn love, prove your value, or be everything for everyone. You don't. The real reason you struggle with boundaries isn't because you're broken or weak or too nice. It's because somewhere deep down, you learned that keeping others comfortable was safer than being honest about your own needs. But you're not that person anymore. You're allowed to change the script. You're allowed to be new. You're allowed to choose you. Even if your voice shakes, even if your hands tremble, even if it doesn't come out perfect. Because here's the truth. Every time you honor a boundary, you come home to yourself. And that, my friend, is the most powerful kind of love there is.